I like that.
Greetings. Yeah. Hello. I'm here with Dr. Beth DuPree, who's currently in San Diego. She lives in Sedona, that beautiful, beautiful place in the States. Um, we're here to talk about the intimate relationship between cancer and trauma. Beth, would you like to tell people a little about yourself?
Thank you. First of all, thank you, Judith, for the opportunity to have this really important discussion because it's not something that I have received any formal training in my oncology, in my surgical oncology years. I am a breast cancer surgeon. I've been a surgeon for I'm in my fourth decade. And I became certified in integrative medicine back in 2012 because I recognized that there was more to cancer and more to healing than what I had been taught in medical school, which was very much a Western medical model of the pill for the ill, as I call it, mentality, or the surgical mentality, which to cut is to cure. And over my years of training through multiple experiences, and eventually in 2017, moving to Arizona and actually experiencing PTSD myself, I came to recognize that there are aspects of my patient's journey in life that I hadn't been completely aware of. I may have recognized it here and there, but I didn't realize the important role that early childhood trauma can play in someone's psychosocial, emotional well being. And as the surgeon that was trying to help my patients find healing, I had to find healing myself through a really traumatic experience. And once you see, you can't unsee it. You can't unknow what you know. And it has led me to be much more trauma aware and trauma educated. And now I'm able to help my patients find their way to healing their soul through their cancer journey.
Yeah, that's that's huge, Beth. Yeah, so thank you for giving us your time today. And for those listening who don't know who I am, I'm Judith Richards. I'm the creator of TRTP, the Richards Trauma Process, which I created out of my own desperate need for healing. And I teach that to practitioners, a couple thousand now. And that's how we connected, Beth. I got a message through LinkedIn that I'd been tagged when you posted to LinkedIn that you just had a paper published in PubMed. So I was thrilled to read that paper where you spoke about the connection between cancer and trauma and how you encourage your patients to deal with their stuff in order to heal their whole being. And you encourage your patients, as many as are possible, to do TRTP because that's how you came to your own healing.
The process of what's interesting is I didn't realize, I thought that someone had to have gone through sexual abuse or physical abuse or some, what I would consider a massive disruptive process in their life to be traumatized. But I learned that not being seen, not being heard, feeling as though the rest of the world was going on around you and you were nobody, you were not there, can play a significant role. And my own personal journey through healthcare, what woke me up was a situation where a health system was not willing to do the difficult steps to create a safer environment for the patients, to disclose aspects of care that they had provided that had not been, in my perspective and many other doctors' perspective, to the standard of care. And as an adult, as a 59, 60-year-old adult, being bullied and harassed and targeted, set me into a situation where it led me to look outside of my comfort zone of Western medicine. And so I actually got introduced to psychedelic therapy before I actually experienced TRTP. And the reason why TRTP then resonated with me so much is that a psychedelic experience, which is, using an entheogen, using a plant medicine like psilocybin, it's not for everybody. And for a lot of people who have been using these entheogens recreationally, they've not done it with guardrails. So they're left to their own devices to try to find their way through the darkness. And what I was able to figure out and identify, and my sister does TRTP. She was a traditional therapist for years, but realized that she really only wanted to work with individuals who were willing to literally sink their teeth in and dive into their process. And it is a process. It's not like you go sit with a therapist and you talk about your stuff and it goes away in a heartbeat. And what I was able to find out was that although I had recognized it in myself, it took one of my patients to teach me. One of my patients had stage 4 cancer. I didn't treat her initially, but when I treated her for the stage 4 cancer, which was like a minimal, excision, through the process, we developed a relationship, and she came to talk to a group of young surgeons who actually were learning about lifestyle and fertility preservation and sex and intimacy after cancer. And I always bring a survivor to talk about some aspect of survivorship. And during this Beautiful Souls talk, she brought up a medical trauma when she was 12 years old that was really the inciting factor for all the things that were spiraling in her life. And I was the first doctor that she felt actually heard her or listened to her. So she trusted me. And that's when I referred her to Sue for TRTP, because I knew that she needed more than she was getting from her. Her traditional therapists were doing the best they could. Like, they don't have this tool in their toolbox. And so I'm not dissing them at what they're doing. But once you find a tool that is so effective that your clients, your patients are coming out the other side feeling as though they've been given this new lease on life and this new way to, as I say, refile the file cabinet of all those memories and issues in their default mode network. That's essentially what happens during a psychedelic therapy, but you don't necessarily have to do that psychedelic journey. You just need to find someone to help you reorganize your file cabinet and to reframe those experiences that created the triggers in your life that continue to take you back to those really difficult times. And, for my sister, once she started doing TRTP, she said, she was just called to do this, as I call it, this high vibration healing, because it's unlike any other form of therapy that my patients have experienced. And it's not just one patient. I've sent countless patients now through my foundation to be able to experience this level of healing, because I know what it can do for them. And what I didn't know before my psychedelic training and before learning about TRT, I didn't realize the connection between the adverse childhood events and cancer. And when it really sunk in for me, I knew I needed to write that op-ed for MedPage called, your patient's been dealt 4 aces. What do you do? And we know that anyone with more than 4 adverse childhood events, they have an increased incidence of cancer, upwards of 200%. We know there's an increased incidence of anxiety and depression. And when I've gone back to my oncology colleagues and I said, why are we not, we do this little NCCN distress thermometer where they check off a box, how stressed are you? Why don't we use ACEs as one of our screening tools when our patients come into the office for cancer. I mean, it should be used in every doctor's office. Every patient should get screened, because what happens between, pregnancy, your gestation and 18, that period of time, your soul and your psyche is so vulnerable.
Yes.
And so now that I'm working back in my old practice, and I'm really focused on survivorship, I said it's never too late to identify people, and I've had people with ACEs scores of 8 and 9 that they've never had anyone offer to help them address those traumas.
Yeah. Yeah. And what you were saying about filing those files away, it's not done cognitively.
Right.
That takes, the conscious mind works 5% of the time. It's the 95% where all that stuff is stored in the unconscious, and the unconscious runs the body, every chemical reaction, every electrical impulse in the body. And so the body continues to behave as if those things are happening now. And so the body stays under that stress. And
the body keeps score. The body keeps score. And I would love for you to explain. I have a lot of my patients I know that are listening in today.
Yeah.
So I would love for them to hear, the cliff notes to how you develop TRTP and how it works, because I explain it to them, but I said there's a great opportunity because you can actually hear from the master.
Right. And thank you very much, Beth. That's very kind. Well, how I developed it, I had a life of severe trauma from babyhood, really. And I got to a point where I was in severe, complete breakdown, PTSD breakdown, living in several different personalities and living in hallucinations and flashbacks, and I was a mess and compulsively suicidal, et cetera, and I decided to live. And I went through the normal mental health route, and that just made me worse. So I stepped away and said, well, there is a way, I just have to find it. So I stayed away from pharmaceuticals. I wanted enough of my mind clear so that I could find that little way through, and I did. And what happened was, people saw me in the small village where I lived. I went from MBL, the mad beanie lady, as the kids called me, because I'd walk up and down the street talking 1,000 miles an hour, saying the same thing again and again, obviously insane. And people saw me go from that and getting lost and having to be taken home by someone, because it was a small place, people knew each other. They saw me go from that to me, and they started bringing their loved ones, and I just put them through the same steps that I'd gone through to get myself well, and they got well, and then more people came and more, and then a professor was coming to talk about trauma, and I thought, I'm going to learn something. He ended up in hospital, poor gentleman, and I was asked to present. I said, I don't present. They said, you do now. At the end of that presentation, people were lining up saying, teach me. I said, I don't teach. They said, well, you do now. And that was the beginning. And I took a group of 12 and reverse engineered what I'd done and taught them how to do it. And amongst that group was a psychiatrist who specialized in PTSD, and she cleared her books in 5 weeks. And that's another story. But I was thrilled to see that others could do what I was doing. It wasn't just because of my big trauma background that I could do it. I thought, okay, this is worth something. It's worth pursuing. And how it works, and this is my model, it's different from the normal mental health model, but this works. So if we just go very quickly through what happens when we have a traumatic event, and let's get rid of the word trauma. As you said, Beth, it doesn't have to be catastrophic stuff. It can be growing up walking on eggshells in a very stressed household. It can be all sorts of things, as you mentioned. And so let's say distressing events. Everyone has distressing events, and they build up. So you have a distressing event. What happens? The amygdala fires, the emergency services in the brain. We release adrenaline. It races around the body, shutting down all the systems that are not required to sustain life for the next little while we deal with this current challenge. And so the digestion gets shut down. The immune system gets shut down. We don't need to digest breakfast. We can do that later. We can fight a bacterial infection later. One of those things that gets shut down is the frontal lobe. Takes up a lot of energy. We don't need that. We just need to work on instinct. The hippocampus gets shut down. That's one of the parts of the brain largely responsible for long-term memory. Once the event's over in a regulated system, the hippocampus takes that event and, as you say, puts it in the right file, in the right filing cabinet, in the warehouse of long-term memory, and shuts the door, and it's over and we're safe now. Let's get on with the next thing on the agenda today. But in a dysregulated system, a system that's had too many of these distressing events, it's been under too much stress, in too much distress for too long, that doesn't happen. The hippocampus actually downregulates. In an MRI, you can see with someone who's had long-term trauma, big trauma, the structure change in the brain. The hippocampus actually gets smaller and smaller. The amygdala, fires, fight, flight, freeze, emergency services, get bigger and bigger. So the function and structure of the brain changes in absolutely predictable ways in trauma. So what happens instead is that event doesn't get stored in long-term memory and it's over and I'm safe now. No, it gets stored in the unconscious like a videotape loop. It's happening now. It's happening now. That event when I was 3 and when I was 7 and when I was 8 and when I was 12 and then in 15 when I had that school teacher who used to humiliate me in front of the class. So it doesn't have to be huge. And it's like the pressure in a balloon. We've got the unconscious, that 95% of our mind, and there's all these events, and it builds up until it blows out. We can go into anxiety, depression, PTSD, cancer, dis-ease, certainly fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, lupus. There's big connections between trauma and immune disorders. But yeah, cancer and other serious mental and physical ill health. So what we do in TRTP is we deal with that trauma where it's stored. Where's it stored? In the unconscious. Talk therapies, etc., use that 5% of the cognitive mind to control what's happening in the 95%. The maths doesn't add up. So we just deal with it exactly where it's stored in the unconscious. We speak to the unconscious in the language of the unconscious. What's the language? 2 words. It's the imagination. Just imagine. With those 2 words, the critical facility steps aside. And as humans, the unconscious and the body believes what we richly imagine. Take a piece of lemon, and it's so sour, and there's so much juice, I'm getting a major saliva response. My body is behaving as if that's actually happened. So we use this wonderful facility to speak to the unconscious in the language of the unconscious and turn off just the top 3 most distressing events. Hippocampus wakes up. It's like doing a factory reboot on your cell phone. It's all returned to how it should be. So life happens. There'll still be distressing events, but the system goes back to complete regulation, goes back to calm. So we'll have a distressing event, and after the event, the hippocampus will take that event, put it in long-term memory. It's over and I'm safe now. The adrenaline will be cleared from the system. The heart rate will return to normal. Homeostasis rules. And we continue not impacted and not reacting now to what's happening then and then and then and then and then. We can be present and just dealing with what's happening now rather than what's happening now triggering all these videos on, and we're not just talking to our partner in front of us with his raised voice. We're there and there and there and there and there and there and there, and our system is overwhelmed. We turn all of that off and we turn the whole being to calm. So that's how it works. 3 sessions generally.
Wow. And so from, as a cancer surgeon, everybody believes, once you cut out the cancer, we're done. To cut is to cure. Nothing heals like cold steel. Those were the adages that, we were told as surgeons. And I wrote a chapter for a book that's coming out called Scarred, the Warrior Project. And I always say, the scars that are the deepest from breast cancer are the ones that we cannot see. And when those scars are not addressed, my patients stay in a state of cortisol storm. I'm actually, I've got a lot of tools in my toolbox at this point in my life because I'm not afraid to step outside the box. I'm not afraid to question what I've been taught in Western medicine. I don't believe, I think that if we don't question and we don't look, we're never going to find the next step in very deep healing. And one of the technologies that I'm working with stimulates the vagus nerve, which I think would pair beautifully with TRTP, because we can measure someone's heart rate variability, which is the intrabeat variability between each heartbeat. And when you have resilience, when you have the ability to respond to situations instead of react, your body is able to stay in parasympathetic rest and digest, where you can heal and you can sleep and you can function. After a cancer diagnosis, so many people go into cortisol storm and they stay there. They stay in that level. And even individuals that have a low ACEs score, they still do that. And so for 100% of my cancer patients, they can benefit from the non-invasive stimulation of the vagus nerve. Now, can I get them there naturally? Absolutely. I can have them chant. I can have them repeat mantras. I can have them sing. I can have them do yogic breathing. For a lot of individuals, it's going to take 2 or 3 weeks to actually feel that effect of that vagus nerve. It's like going to the gym. And so I was blessed to be introduced to Dr. Yakov Katz-Nelson, who developed an amazing technology that stimulates the vagus nerve. We call it Mind Vibe. It's a wellness technology. But I can see utilizing these tools where it's sometimes very difficult for someone who's very anxious and very much on edge to even be able to sit with themselves begin this process. And when you can take someone and backpedal it and bring them down into calm, then they're more open to be able to receive the experience of TRTP, to be able to access it. And I'm hoping that, in our clinical trial, what we're doing is we're following our patients out to 12 weeks. And people who I believe may have just been kind of triggered by the cancer trauma, or the cancer experience, they may get a longer term effect. But in my patients, in the participants in the trial, who I believe are potentially, they did well at first, but their level, like they lose their resilience very quickly. In those individuals, I believe that they are probably the ones that really need to do TRTP. They need to do that deeper dive, because although we can calm someone in that moment, and for some people long lasting, for others, they get that sense of calm, but they go back up as life stresses continue to mount for them.
Yeah. And if we haven't turned off those videotape loops from earlier experiences, they come back. And,
and that's why it works hand in hand, because if I can get someone off their medications by using our technology, because I find that once people are off their medications, they're much more open. Their bodies can begin to heal better, but the medications tend to flatten the affect, and they can keep individuals from actually feeling those emotions that they have to feel to get to that place where they're not going to be triggered by them constantly. And so I feel really blessed that, I know that our mental health is our greatest of wealth. If someone goes through cancer and they're not mentally well, and they're not healthy, whole, and complete from the inside out, they're going to be at a higher risk for recurrence and for other diseases, because their body is going to be responding in a way that it's almost like that fear response. And so this is where I believe that I know that this Western medical electroceutical technology is phenomenal, and I think for some people that's all they're going to need. But TRTP is another one of those tools in my toolbox, where when I have someone that comes through that and goes, I want to be able to stay there and feel that, can I give them breath work? Yes. And everybody may need something different, but now that I have gotten smart enough and savvy enough to identify the level of trauma in someone's life prior to their cancer, I've got tools to be able to give them, to say, listen, I can refer you to a TRTP therapist who can actually, because some people are also, I don't want to do therapy. I don't want to go talk to somebody about my problems. And because this is a process of healing, as opposed to going to sign up for 5 years of therapy, 3 times a week, I think that my patients are much more open to it, because it's almost like I'm writing them a prescription, like if
Yeah.
you give somebody a prescription for a drug, they'll go take it, they'll take that. So now I write them a prescription for TRTP and I give them the number to call. So it's a wonderful tool to have for cancer survivorship.
Yeah. And the person going through the therapy doesn't have to go back and relive it. We don't talk about it. We just get on with it.
Yeah.
So that's a
the
relief
beauty.
to a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where, with plant medicine and entheogens, such as psilocybin and ayahuasca, for a lot of people that have utilized these molecules, if they don't do it in the right set and setting, they will relive those experiences, just like veterans with
Yes.
in my training when we were doing we were learning about MDMA therapy for veterans. Everybody in my class initially thought that the veterans were going to relive experiences from Afghanistan or Iraq. They all went back to childhood. And so it was another life lesson for me that, was it those childhood traumas that drew that individual to go put themselves in harm's way and pick up a gun and go fight, and put themselves into a situation where was that the program running in their head that they probably, they don't deserve to live, or they felt compelled to go to war instead of actually healing their traumas. And now that I know what I know, it's the early trauma. It's in so many cases. Not that I mean, believe me, there are many people that are traumatized from war that probably didn't come from childhood, but so many of these veterans that I saw in the clinical trials, it was those early childhood traumas. And if we could address that before we put them in a situation again of harm, like imagine if we took our military and actually allowed them to heal these things before we put them in a situation where they don't have the right resources to handle those stressful situations.
Yeah. Yes. If we could get to people early, that would be a wonderful thing.
I mean, I think, for pediatricians, like when a pediatrician, like how much are we assessing these traumas in kids? We're not. I don't think we are. I don't think we're actually focusing enough attention on, what it's like to grow up in a household with alcoholics, or a relative that's in prison, or not having food on the table, or not knowing where you're going to sleep at night. I mean, like I said, you don't have to be raped and beaten to have been traumatized.
No.
All of these aspects are traumatic in their own way. They're all life experiences that it's like Jenga. That you keep stacking them on, and then somebody pulls one out, and the tower falls
down.
And how do you pick it back up?
Yeah, and it can be something as simple as parents are really busy and they're emotionally absent. So there's no secure attachment that I'm safe and I'm loved, and doesn't matter what happens, I'm there. And so people have this insecure attachment, which is the whole basis of all trauma, because you can have two people go through the same events and one will come out severely traumatized and one will just carry on and be fine. And what's it come down to? Early childhood.
Yeah.
And attachment.
It's interesting because until I started taking the deeper dive into this work, I didn't realize I'm one of 7 children. I'm the youngest.
I'm the youngest of 8.
So as the youngest of 7, what happened after I was born, my mom had a second trimester stillbirth. They called it a miscarriage. And it was around 1963. And there was this brand new pharmaceutical drug called Valium that in the US they called Mother's Little Helper, because, and of course, my mom had 7 young kids, lost a child in her second trimester. Who wouldn't be traumatized? Didn't get the emotional, psychosocial support she needed. And they started her own Valium. And I've said to my sisters for years, I always felt like there was a distance there, because if someone is medicated on an anxiolytic, they're not, there's a veil in between you. And it took my beautiful sister Amy to, I don't know how she figured it out when she was in second grade, but she's like, Mom, you have to stop this. Like, you have to stop these pills. But
Wow.
to this day, I believe that played a role in her developing Alzheimer's. So with all that we know now about, long-term utilization of, anxiolytics and antidepressants, and what so many of my patients don't understand. And I find this like bizarrely fascinating. I'm sure you've read the book Anatomy of an Epidemic by Whitaker. It's all about the pharmaceutical industry and how, as the drugs developed, psychiatrists then could just, here's the pill for this diagnosis, here's the pill for this diagnosis. And when I ask my patients, that when I meet them for the first time and I find out that they've been on Zoloft or another antidepressant for 5 years or more, and I'll say, did you know that the clinical trials were only done to 8 weeks? Like, these were not supposed to be forever drugs.
Yeah.
Because they never did the studies any farther out. And, getting off of the pharmacologic agents, as you said, I've never been on one. Thank God. I've never had to. And I would never take one now with what I know. I would never, I'm sure there are some instances where for the acute situation, you need pharmacologic intervention. Like, if someone's suicidal in the emergency room, ketamine can turn it around very quickly, but it doesn't fix the underlying problem. It doesn't go back and address the source. And that's really what TRTP does, is it's rewriting the source code. It's actually, allowing someone to heal without reliving every second of every traumatic experience that they've ever had. And for that, it's a blessing. And, I came to Australia in April of 2022 after I left my traumatizing experience. And
it was a doozy.
yeah. And the funny thing is, a lot of the things that became apparent to me in the process, I just had really good coping mechanisms. And I just, my default mode network was working overtime. And it took feeling threatened by my Western medical world to wake me and shake me. And I'm so grateful that it did. I've come to, bless the thing that breaks you down and cracks you wide open, because I wouldn't be doing I would still be operating in Sedona. Not that I was a good surgeon. I've always been, I'm still a surgeon, but I'm an incredibly well-respected, skilled surgeon. It's not that I don't want to be doing surgery. It's just that at this point in my life, if I don't take this survivorship charge, as I call it, like helping my patients to actually heal very deeply at their soul, at their core, it's nobody else is going to do. This is not, I'm not switching my profession because I'm making more money, because I'm actually making far less money not working full-time as a surgeon.
Yeah.
But I sleep well at night. My heart is doing exactly what I'm being called to do, because now that I know what I didn't know all these years that so many of my patients were experiencing, I can't just I can't just operate and know that level of, dis-ease is ruling their lives.
Yeah, because once you see it, you can't unsee it, as you said, Beth, which is why I can't not keep banging on doors and spreading the word on all of this. And you are an awarded surgeon, a highly respected breast cancer surgeon, and you're a little bit different, Beth. That video that I saw on YouTube of you with a dear patient who was having a double mastectomy, I think she was having.
Yeah.
And you and the whole team with this patient were dancing to a song of her choice, a Bruno Mars song, dancing through the corridors to the OR, all of you, in celebration that her cancer was about to be, leaving her body. And that
it was interesting because
mind.
it was I had been away for my 60th birthday, and Deb was scheduled for her surgery, and she had worked at the hospital, and everybody called her Dancing Deb because she worked in a department, like, always loved the music. And she was scheduled for surgery on that Tuesday, May 4th. And I know the day because my mom actually passed away that morning.
Yes.
I
Yes.
had gone from Mexico to Salt Lake City, which is the people that I'm here in San Diego with this pain patch, non-narcotic pain patch technology. I went to meet them, and that night my mom aspirated. I went back to Pennsylvania. She was 95, going on 96, and it was like we had just gotten done with the COVID lockdown, so I was actually able to see her in person, which I hadn't been able to see her for that year and a half, except on an iPad. And so I was at peace with my mom. Our last conversation we had was my sister Sue in Australia, my sister Mary, and myself. And we had missed we had a Thursday, we had a regular like setup call, and we missed the one call. They set it up. And in that conversation, my mom had said, I want to go home. I'm ready. I want to go home. I'm ready. And my older sister thought that she meant she wanted to go back to our house in 2nd Avenue. And I said, no, mom's ready to go home to God. She's ready to go. And that night she aspirated. I was able to fly back, spend time with her. And I knew that, me sitting there while my mom was taking her last dying breath was not, my mom wouldn't have wanted me to do that. I got to spend one whole night there with her by myself to, playing beautiful music and talking to her and letting her know, what a wonderful mom she had been to us. I flew back to Arizona. And the day I got back, the next day I was doing Deb's surgery. So I wasn't involved in the whole dancing thing, and except that someone said she wanted to dance. I said, as long as she's got permission from the hospital, I'm good with it. And so I got there that morning, and Deb had also lost her mom to Alzheimer's. So we had a very good connection. And she was the only person that knew that my mom had transitioned that night. She knew that I had been in Pennsylvania to say goodbye. And so for us to dance into the OR and for her to have her desires, like I've ridden on stretchers with patients and holding their hand. I have talked to them, as they were getting their anesthesia. Like I don't leave them alone. Like I stay with them because I'm the person that they know in the process. Like I'm the one. So until they're sound asleep, I'm there with one hand on their heart, my other hand holding their hand. And I typically do guided imagery where they can't be in fear and love at the same time. So I have them go to a place of love. And it's funny because the video that Deb posted on the internet, there's actually a better video. Somebody else had filmed it with her camera. There was an OR nurse camera and her camera. And the other video shows us in the room when she got in there hugging her entire team. And it was absolutely beautiful. And the funny thing was that the hospital accused me of getting her to do that. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Number one, I would never do that. Number two, it was the patient's desire. She had cleared it with the OR directors. But it was the hospital it was during that whole time of being targeted. And so it was just one more thing for them to come after me about. And I knew, that day after, I had written a letter of resignation previously, but I was trying to like fight it out and get through, get all the patients diagnosed during COVID. But that was yet another traumatic experience in 2021 that came up when I was going through my process, because I was honoring a patient's wish. Everybody knew that they were going to be in a video and she was going to post it on social media. And in the end, that became another thing for the hospital to target me about. And I'm like, okay, I'm done. It was like, that was it. That, I couldn't take it anymore, because they couldn't even understand that honoring a patient's wishes and giving them the opportunity to go into their surgery with, grace and ease and joy
And
is
love.
going to change their outcome with love from everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. And when it all comes down to it, it's all about love, isn't it?
Yep.
And
Yep.
that's what I teach my students who are learning how to work with their own clients. I say, you have to understand that this is about love. This is about connecting with your client heart to heart and soul to soul and being absolutely there. I've got you and you're safe, and I know exactly what to do to take you by the hand to the other side of all this pain. It'll soon be behind you. Come with me.
That's why patients connect with me. And yes, I am a good
Exactly.
surgeon, and yes, I have a good reputation, but I connect with patients like
Like that, like I was just talking about just
it's
there.
a soul to soul connection, and that's what makes it very, very hard too, because um, they think that they need me, but they don't. All I'm doing is helping to show them the path, to illuminate that path for them to be able to take, to be able to go to find their, to find what they need to truly heal. And I find it interesting. Like I meet a lot of people traveling, and woman after woman diagnosed with cancer. And I'll say, "Who was your surgeon?" Like, "Oh, I forget." I can guarantee you, none of my patients have ever forgotten who I am after
Yeah.
taking care of them for surgery, which is why this chapter of my life is not about the surgery. It's about helping to heal the scars that nobody else sees. And that level of deep inner healing, it changes their vibration. It is, we have an opportunity to have a massive quantum paradigm shift in healthcare and healing.
Yeah.
And we know how much lifestyle matters, like not drinking, not smoking, exercising, maintaining a normal body weight, like decreasing someone's level of obesity. I can't ask someone to go to the gym, to eat a healthier diet, and to meditate and stress less when they are activated and they are dealing with what their body has been keeping score of forever, which
Yeah.
are those adverse childhood experiences. And that's why I think I like the term ACEs, because it doesn't have to be a trauma. They're experiences. They're
Yeah.
experiences that affect someone's psyche adversely. And so this
Yes.
is why, for me, survivorship starts with mental well-being. It starts with mental health. And we need this tool in our toolbox. And I really think that we should be doing a study with our cancer patients with TRTP, because traditional therapy versus TRTP, I think hands down, I know what the results will be, but the reason I'm doing the clinical study with Mind Vibe is because I have to prove that someone's heart rate variability improves. I have to prove that their fatigue score gets better, that their sleep score improves, because then my Western medical colleagues who have their blinders on can then say, "Oh my God, we have to adopt this," because otherwise I'm just the surgeon that is taking this electroceutical device and telling patients they feel better because I'm sitting in a room with them, or you being, I know that that's one of the things I've seen, like when I researched you on the website and everything. You were so busy training therapists and getting other individuals to help other people heal at that deep level. But I want to see TRTP taught, just as I want to see nutrition taught in medical school, just as I want to see um, how our bodies are affected
Yeah.
by our mental and emotional well-being.
Yeah.
I want to see TRTP become a word that every therapist understands and knows. And I'm hoping that by doing things like this, we're going to, I know that you don't have to be in the room with someone to do TRTP. You can do it remotely. It's a
Yes.
beautiful thing. It's the technology is amazing when it brings us together, because I'd either have to fly to Australia or you'd be in San Diego today.
Yeah.
And so the beauty of technology is we get to be in the same place at the same time on two totally different continents,
Yeah. It's brilliant. It's
sharing
brilliant.
sharing the wisdom with the world. And for that, I will say, the one thing that came out of COVID, I think a lot of people realized how many more things we can do
Online.
online.
Yeah, absolutely. And in terms of
But not
research,
the family that's sitting at the table and everybody's on their phone and no one's talking to each other and paying attention. That to me is a tragedy. And so we've got to learn how to use it.
yeah, and in terms of research, I don't know if you're aware, Beth, but we've completed our first research project that's doing the rounds of journals at the moment to be published.
Awesome.
It just takes
Yay.
so
I
much
know
time.
I know.
We're collaborating with Melbourne University,
Awesome.
and that will be published soon. We can't talk about the results yet, but the results are
All you have to do is either smile or frown. Smile or frown. There you go. I got it.
High fives.
Yeah, and that's the thing with us. I can know. I mean, I know that that the sympathetic nervous system is activated by cancer. There's no doubt in my mind.
Absolutely.
And so to be able to have a way to deactivate that and allow someone to be calm enough to then address the other stuff. But I can bring someone into parasympathetic calm, but that doesn't heal the trauma that got them to that place. That doesn't heal that adverse event that got them there, which is why, some people say, well, how are you doing all of these things? I say, because your toolbox needs multiple tools. And, just like in the world, like I believe there's a place for psilocybin in cancer care, but
Yes.
you can't give someone an entheogen if they're on an antidepressant or an anxiolytic. So for me to be able to get someone out of, get them off of their medications to be able to safely do a psilocybin journey is amazing. And I also believe that there is a place for TRTP in this whole process, because you've got to choose your patients you got to choose people very carefully for a psychedelic journey. But TRTP would dovetail so beautifully with these God molecules of psilocybin and ayahuasca that I think that this is going to be the future of mental health, and it's completely disruptive to our Western medical model of the pill for the ill and the disease treatment paradigm. But I'm happy about it.
Yeah. And, the end point, my end point has always been to change how mental health is done on the planet.
That's what we're doing.
Deal with it where the problem is, in the unconscious. And with this process, you just turn it all off. And when we turn all that off, the difference in the physical body can be extraordinary as well.
Absolutely.
So if anybody has a question for Dr. Beth or for myself, thanks, Helen Ward, for your comment. I went through a period of acute distress. I tried psychiatry, psychotherapy, other healing modalities. I was still in acute distress. Thankfully, I found TRTP. It worked. Highly recommended. Thank you, Helen.
Awesome.
Some questions coming in. Is there, Margaret. Thanks, Margaret, for your question. Not sure what TRTP is. My first seminar today. Is there a link to a fuller explanation? Blair. Yes, if you go to, there will be replays of this webinar. It will be up on various social media, on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. There is an explanation earlier in this conversation, Margaret, and you can also go and just type in what is TRTP on Google, and good old Google will bring up lots of stuff for you. And Catherine, Dr. DuPree, held my hand and stayed with me in pre-op, walked back with me to surgery, and was there to talk to me when I woke up. Gee, Beth, who does that? She was the coordinator of all my treatments and helped me to heal body, mind, and soul. I had no idea I was carrying around unresolved trauma. Her book helped me learn about it. Beth's written fabulous books. Please go and read them. Continue to heal and continue to live the rest of my life in peace and love. Good. Thank you. And Blair, you've put up for therapists interested in training. There's a link there. If you're wanting to do TRTP yourself, you can go to trtptherapy.com and check the practitioner directory and find someone there. I'm on there as well. Just a couple of weeks ago, I started seeing clients myself. again. It's been such a joy, and I have so much more energy, Beth, now that I'm working one-on-one with clients.
I knew that was what you were missing though too, because if I couldn't, like, I love what I'm doing right now because I get to interact with breast cancer survivors, but it's not the same interaction that I had before, because now I feel like I'm actually walking this journey with them, and I get to see the fruit of the labor. I get to see the other side of the surgery, the chemo, the radiation. I get to see the survivorship, and we call it thrivership because I don't count the days that somebody has on the earth. I want to count the moments in life that take their breath away, that they are actually living in absolute peace in their heart.
Yes, there's a difference between just existing,
and thriving.
And thriving. Yeah, big difference. Being shut down survival and really thriving, big difference. Donna, being almost 10 years as a thriver. Good on you, Donna. Congratulations. High five. I'm even more interested in TRTP. I never knew childhood trauma can cause cancer diagnosis. Beth stayed with me through my pre-surgical routine, and here she is still impacting my life. Love you, Beth. Oh, that's lovely. Feel the love.
And my patients know how to find me through my foundation and my website, because 10 years ago, I didn't have these resources. I've had my foundation, but I have come to realize that the things that I want our foundation to focus on now is this deep inner healing, which I believe everybody needs. We all, it's funny. Some people say, "Oh, well, if you say I need to heal, that means that I'm broken." I said, no. We all have things to heal from. And I love the fact that I'm at a place now where we can utilize the resources from my foundation to be able to help these beautiful men and women who've gone through breast cancer to actually come out the other side and go, you know what? Breast cancer is not the worst thing that ever happened to me. And I know that I've made it when that comes to light, because cancer is an opportunity for spiritual growth. It's an opportunity for introspection. And if we can get smart enough to identify these adverse childhood events before someone's body holds on to that energy so tightly that a cancer is the other side of it, imagine how wonderfully we can help humanity heal and the planet.
Yeah. If we all deal with our own stuff,
yeah,
we'll be healthier in mind, body,
absolutely,
and everything. It's just logical.
I'm the healthiest I've ever been. I turned 64 yesterday, and I took a 4-mile hike up the back of my mountain with 18 pounds of a vest on my back, because a year and a half ago, I got diagnosed with osteopenia. And I'm getting a lot smarter about why I had diminished bone density. And I'm already back 7% in my hip and 8% in my spine after a year of strength training. And, I stopped doing all the cardio, but I take time to sit in silence and quiet and just be. And that's a gift that I didn't give myself for a long time. I actually, this afternoon before our webinar here, my sister Sue does this beautiful yoga nidra. It's one of her practices. It's actually on my website if anybody wants to download it. It's on BethDuPree.com, drbethdupree.com. It's 17 minutes of pure heaven, and it's a yogic practice where you don't sleep, but you get the benefit as though you've slept for 2 to 3 hours. So I would go into my office in between my morning and afternoon hours, and I'd shut the door and I'd lay on my floor and I'd put my beautiful sister's Australian accent on and just absolutely melt into her yoga nidra. And today it was perfect. It's what I needed this afternoon after waking up early and coming here and doing all
I
the
sent
stuff.
you a message. You were up at 4:00 in the morning. What are you doing?
I was already on I was at the airport because I had a 5:20 flight and I had to drive to the airport this morning.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to check out.
I wanted to be here with you, and if I took a later flight, there's a chance that I would have been in transit. And to me, the work that we're doing, and I say we because we are a collective consciousness focused on healing. The work that we're doing, I believe, is so important in every aspect of healthcare, not just cancer care. I
All of
think
health,
that, yeah, absolutely. And I
body,
think that
mind, and spirit.
we're going to continue to be able to crisscross and cross-pollinate the beautiful things that we're doing.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. Natalie, Natalie Stockdale. Hello, Natalie. I'm a breast cancer thriver and a new TRTP practitioner. Had I known about TRTP during my cancer experience, I would have embraced it. Thank you, Natalie. And Natalie's now doing
Awesome.
she's now doing fabulous work with clients who come to her. Just gorgeous.
I love it.
And BethDuPree.com is your website, isn't it, Beth? Let's just get that clear.
Yes. And then my foundation website for breast cancer survivors is hcf444.org.
HCF
Yeah.
444.org.
That's where people can get that. I actually brought books for some of the people tomorrow where we're filming. I always run into a cancer survivor somewhere along the way. So I'm bringing I brought some books along to San Diego for whomever I run into that needs the journey.
Well, thank you for the work that you do. And Blair in the background is putting up your details there.
I see that.
Yeah.
And my second book is, I'm in the second edit. It's called Shifting Gears, Living Life with Intention. And that will come out this summer. We're about to do a pre-sale for that. I'm publishing it with Blue Hat Publishing, and I'm loving the process. They're wonderful. And my third book, which is in process, is called Arrhythmia of the Soul. And that's where TRTP will be very well illuminated, because I believe that my colleagues in Western medicine need to recognize all the tools that we have in our mental health toolbox, and become aware that, when someone comes in with a new episode or a new diagnosis of anxiety, the best way to heal is not that little prescription pad that orders Xanax. You're treating the symptom, you're not treating the root cause. And that's why we need to shift gears in Western medicine and get back to identifying the root cause and healing at a soul's level.
Yeah. That's it. So go you, Beth.
And thank you for reaching out to me on LinkedIn after I tagged you. It was funny because I was like, oh, she's the real deal. This is the real Judith Richards.
Yeah, I said, let's get on a Zoom. Let's talk. Yeah.
Well, it's all good.
Yeah.
And we've only just begun. I will be back in Australia again one of these days. My sister lives mid-North Coast, and it's like the most chill vacation ever to go to their house and, body surf at the beach and just hang out in the yoga studio.
Yeah.
All good stuff.
Yeah. I'll be checking out Sue's,
she's just an amazing healer. It's funny because she started out as an accountant, and me, the surgeon, which how do you crisscross? And now we are we're right there. And the work that she's done with our breast cancer survivors is like none other. It's exceptional. She's a gift. And my survivors, thrivers love the fact that for many of them, they've done therapy in the past, and they said, this isn't therapy, this is healing.
Well, that's the thing. And it's not hard. That's the other thing, when cancer survivors go and think, well, I'll deal with my stuff, and they go and do the talk therapies, and they have to take control of their thoughts and change how they're thinking. And it takes so much energy. It's like holding balloons underwater, and you reach a crisis of exhaustion, as you do with all the cancer journey and everything, and the balloons pop up and you're back where you started. And with this, we're not using the cognitive 5% to control the 95% of the unconscious. We're going right in there and just turning off the distress. Just turn it off, and the whole being comes back to, it's over and I'm safe now. I'm safe now.
It's beautiful.
It's
So
just love.
thank you for your journey, because if you hadn't chosen to say, damn the torpedoes, I need to find my own way out of the darkness.
Yeah.
You walked through the darkness and came out to the light and created a process that is teachable, shareable, and helps people heal at their core.
Yeah, it's
So
very
thank you.
Oh, thank you, Beth. And thanks for what you've done coming through the Western, that's hard. That's hard work. And then being so open and aware to explore other things. So thank you. And I'm just so thrilled and blessed that our paths have crossed, and we'll be seeing a lot of each other. Thank you, Dr. Beth
No
DuPree.
coincidence.
Yeah, no coincidence. Thank you for joining us here, Beth. Appreciate you organizing your
Thank
early
you.
morning and putting so much energy into just being here with us. And thank you, everybody who's joined us on this live call or watching the recording. Bless you all.